Welcome today for our Stanford video class. Today I want to talk about narration. If we have a story, this is the way I think about it. Stories have a very natural quality to them. Someone is telling a story always, and that person is the narrator. The narrator is a person who sits outside the story and they tell you about something that happened in the past. Even if a writer is writing in present tense, that's essentially the assumption that there's someone who's telling us the story. That narrator might draw attention to themselves, or they may not draw attention to themselves, that's up to them. But there's still always someone that's sort of spinning the tale. Within the story we have what we might call a point of view character, POV. This is the person living the story as it's moving along in time, for example. They're the principal character. The narrator tells us about this character, and the narrator can tell us about that character by being inside the head of that character, possessing them and being in their body as they move through the telling of the story. Or the narrator can be out here and simply tell us things about this character and what's going on. They can essentially narrate. They might tell. If they're in the body of the character, they generally show. There isn't an absolute good or bad about whether you should have a narrator telling or whether you should have a character showing. A lot of people will say you want to show and don't tell. I think it comes down to a situation like this. The experience in POV is more immediate for the reader than hearing about it from the narrator. And we can think about that just in terms of distance. If we look at, I'm going to draw this picture again. Here's our story. And here's our point of view character, and here's our narrator. If we have a reader, and I'm going to draw this eyeball for our reader, reading the story as they're going along. If they're reading about the POV character and inside the head of the POV character as they're moving along, it's a very short distance. They're experiencing the story in a very immediate way. But if the narrator intrudes, the reader is reading it this way. There's a lot more distance. They're going outside the story, knowing that they're dealing with the narrator, telling us about what's happening inside the story. It's not that it's bad, but there's more distance involved with it. I think, and as a general principle, my feeling is that sense of immediacy that the reader can have with the character and in POV, that's an incredibly valuable tool that the writer has to use. I think we should favor that unless there's some really good reason to use that narrator and to have that narrator intrude. If we need the intelligence of the narrator for some reason to help us understand what's going on in the story, then so be it, we'll have that narrator. But if we don't, if we can understand the story just by being in POV, I say we stay with that character.